You saw that right in the title. Just a few dollars shy of $8,000 I was fined yesterday, right here on this ticket. How much of that fine did I end up paying? Listen in to find out. I want to keep this as concise and brief and brisk and quick moving as possible so that you're not sitting here, because this is a monologue. I have no other content to throw at this other than to take you along and let you learn a few things based off of my sad experience yesterday in the town of Selby, South Dakota. So the tale begins that I was asked to do a load, basically a fill-in load for a friend of mine. He does a lot of work for a big company out in the Dakotas, and in order to maintain that standing, sometimes when you're an owner-operator, you got to step up and do some of the less desirable work. I don't necessarily want to call it dirty work, but it's the work that an over-the-road guy's not going to want to do. So anyway, he was asked to do this load. He needed to get home, so he said, "Hey, would you do it for me while you're out here?" And I said, "Yeah, it's a short run, fully loaded. It's only going to be 60 or 70 miles." And I said, "Yeah, I can do that before I head back to Montana." So I was instructed to call the cattle buyer in the morning and get the details. So spent the night, called the cattle buyer first thing, 7 a.m., and he gives me the details of the load, but a very vague weight, a very vague total weight. Said you will be in the ish range, which whenever someone gives you the ish, I never like it because we bill according to weight, and you want to know your weight, but just wasn't going to get the weight on this load. Said you'll be in the 63,000-ish range. So that's what I go off of. Legal for me, like my max, straight up perfect legal thing for me on a deal like this is going to be, it's going to be about 61,000 generally, right? Generally. But I had a little manure in my trailer, a few other factors that are going to knock me down to about 60. So I know I'm going to be a little heavy. Anyway, I pick up the cattle, I do the deal, I get my last bunch on, and I pull on the road, and it's pretty easy to tell, that I'm heavy. But I know that I'm heavy, right? So that's that. Still had plenty of room in the trailer for a lot more cattle if I needed. So by no means am I the most full that I've ever been. As I leave Mobridge, South Dakota, heading east towards Selby, come over the bend, and there's a jump scale open that, to my knowledge and to my asking of other people, they've all since shared with me, like, that scale is so rarely ever open. What a surprise. Granted, it's something I should have checked on the Trucker Path app, but even then I don't think it would have showed open because I had just driven by it, just 30 minutes before, and there was nobody there. It was closed. So I think I was one of the first trucks to actually come upon this scale as it freshly opened. Sometimes that just happens. So I pull into the scale, and the officer comes up and he says, "What's your gross weight?" I said, I'm over. Well, there's no sense I'm thinking no sense in trying to pull the wool over his eyes, right? I said, "I'm over. I'm probably grossing 102,000, 101, 102,000. I can't tell you because they didn't give me my exact weight. They just said it's in this range." So he said, "Well, let's weigh you up." So we did. We took the next half hour using their portable scales. Weighing with the portable scale is a very slow process. Each individual wheel has to be weighed by itself. It takes a lot of time. But at the end of 20 or 30 minutes, we get the truck weighed. And he says, "Man, you're a lot heavier than you thought you were." I said, "Well, that's unfortunate." I said, a couple things just real quick off the bat. I said, I can either go back and go dump them at the sale barn. It's 15 miles behind me. I'll just go back, go dump them off. They can figure out what they want to do. I said, I can call someone down here and have them bring a horse trailer. Again, this is a short haul. He's like, no, we're not doing, you can't do any of those things. You're on the hook here. Well, great. So he runs my numbers to me and he says, "All right, you're 10,300 pounds overweight," which means that I've almost got a 70,000 pound load on. And I'm like, wow, that's very, very heavy. And he said, "Yeah, let me work some more numbers." He said, "You will get a 5% grace because you loaded out of a sale barn and you're within 50 miles. It's a local run, so we're going to give you that grace. It's gonna give you some free weight, basically. He runs that, runs all his numbers, and he says, all right, the final overweight ticket for you today is going to be $2,300. Mind blown. I've never experienced anything even remotely in this range before. You almost don't even know of anybody that's experienced fines in this range before. Well, here I am with it. So I'm very taken aback. I'm saying, hey, officer, I'm just stepping in. I don't even know any of these people involved in it. I'm just helping a friend cover for a company, and I don't think the company even knows the weight. I think we've all been a little bit misled here, was my opinion on the matter. Well, be that what it is, you got to pay it. And I'm like, well, I got to pay it all right now? He goes, yes, you have to settle up on this now. You have to come up with money now. Oh, so I'm like, all right, well, I guess. Which is really disheartening, because that basically takes the profit. The load that got me out to that area, it cuts all your profit out of that load after you remove your fuel expenses and things. So now I've been trucking so hard the last few days, prior to this, trying to get things covered, get cows moved, and here I am getting just a massive fine, $2,300. Can you imagine getting pulled over for a speeding ticket or something and finding out that you're actually going to owe $2,300? Woo. I knew I was overweight. I was expecting maybe a couple $100, but that's what the ticket came to. So, moving on, he gets my stuff all finished up, and the last thing he goes, hold on, I got to call my supervisor. He goes, I don't know if I can give you 5%, overage on this before we add the fees. And I'm like, well, I hope you can, because otherwise I'm back to being the full 10,300 overweight. Calls the supervisor, gets off the phone and says, yeah, I was right. It was weird. He kept trying to sell this like, I was right. I had this nagging. And he goes, you don't get 5%. And all the while I'm thinking, you don't even know your rules, dude. Like, why would you tell me I get 5% off of this? You didn't know it. He's telling me how he's been a DOT officer for 16 years, and yet he did not know the rule on farm hauling versus commercial origin locations. So I was like, that's not a good sign. But anyway, he says, you're back to 10,300. Let me run some numbers. He runs up some numbers, and he says, your new total is $7,907. Basically $8,000. That's your new fine. So we just went from one phone call, $2,300 to $8,000, just like that. Boom. So I'm in shock. I'm reeling at this point. I call the guy that we're doing the load for, the trucking outfit, and tell him he's floored. I call the buyer. He's nervous, I think. I said, look, here I am stuck. I'm the one. He's telling me I got to pay $8,000 before I can leave. This load's just stuck here until someone pays $8,000. I can't go. I got loads back in Montana I got to get back to. They're waiting for me. This is bad. So in going back to the officer, I said, hey, could you show me just the fine schedule, meaning, 0 to 1,000 pounds, you pay 10 cents a pound, for example. 1,000 pounds to 5,000, you pay 20 cents a pound. I said, can you give me the listing so I know? Because he's charging me 75 cents a pound on 10,300 pounds of overage. And he starts to hump up a little bit. He starts getting a little perturbed, a little upset at me. We're an hour and a half into it at this point. And he says, hey, you look it up. It's public knowledge. He says it like that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, sorry, sir. You have the manual. You just looked at it. Why not just show me the schedule? Let me take a picture of it so I have the schedule so I can start to process the $8,000 that you're trying to take from me in this moment. Fine, he says. Starts, doing these jerky body movements, reaches in the back, grabs his manual out, turns it to the page with the schedule on it. I pull out my camera to take a picture, and in the last little moment, he goes, hold on, you don't need to take a picture of this part. Pulls out his clipboard and blocks half the page. He's like,
you don't need to be picturing that. And I'm like, but it's your South Dakota manual of rules. Like, relax. So I take my picture, and as he's working through my paperwork, I start looking at some things, and I notice something interesting. It says from 5,000 up to 10,000, the fee is 37 cents a pound. Now this is important. Listen, from 5 to 10,000, the fee is 37 cents a pound. When you hit 10,000, the charge per pound doubles in that moment to 75 cents a pound. So I went back over and said, hey, I'm sorry, I've forgotten. Can you tell me what weight am I again? He says, you're 10,300 pounds. And so the wheels start to turn, and I'm realizing I'm only 300 pounds heavy. If they'll knock me down 300 pounds, that will cut my per pound cost in half. I'll go back to 37.5 cents a pound. And when this dawns on me, this is when I realize you need to do everything in your power to get this ticket adjusted by 300 pounds. So I very humbly, graciously, with all of the humility and genuine Jackson that I could possibly muster, I said, I am begging you to please use the authority that's been given you as an officer of the state of South Dakota. You have the authority to use whatever discretion you feel like with any interaction that you come across. And I know this because there's times where you're given warnings, you're let go. How many times you've been pulled over by a cop and they said, hey, you were doing 78 in a 65. I'm going to knock it down to 69 in a 65. Otherwise, you're going to have an atrocious ticket. And you're so thankful, right, that the officer was willing to use some discretion and call it what he wanted versus what it actually was. So I said, with all the everything in my being, please. I said, I told him this. I said, I've got 5 kids at home. I said, I've been coaching football for the last 3 months. I've made no money since August. I said, I'm just getting back on the road. I can't afford this. I said, $8,000 is going to obliterate me. And he looked at me, and guess what he said? This is why, I'm going to preface this with, this is why I cannot stand law enforcement in the trucking world. This is why I just cannot stand it. He looks at me and this is what he says. He says, you want me to lie and falsify my official report to the state? That's what he told me, just like that. And I said, sir, you can call it what you like, but I know that you have the discretion. Just like as I've been standing here, you've let many trucks go by. That's your choice. You could stop every truck, but you don't. You're dealing with me, so you're letting trucks go by. That's discretion. So that's not, they're very different things. You hold the keys to this deal, and I'm begging you, on behalf of me and my family, please, all that I'm asking him is to lower it by 300 pounds. I said, mark this at $9,999.5. I don't care. Just please get it under 10,000. I still am going to be paying you thousands of dollars, but it's something I can at least wrap my mind around. And he said, nope, I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. 10,300 is what you weighed when you came in. That's what we're putting it at. And in that moment, I mean, my whole everything it all just crashed down on me at once. All the miles I've been driving, the lack of sleep that you deal with when you're hauling cows, it all just hit me. And it's starting to get heavy. So I said, I'm not trying to run around you, but this is too much. I said, could you please call your supervising officer? And I said it just like that. I didn't say, call your supervisor. I said, could you please? And his response to that was this. He's probably too busy to talk about this. You're overweight. Again, please can we talk to your supervising officer? So he says, okay, fine, we'll see if he's even available. He's working a wreck somewhere. One ring and the guy picks up. The officer I'm dealing with says, hey, Sarge, this trucker wants you to cut his weight ticket way down. Here he is. And gives me the phone. That's what he leads with. And so I get on the phone and I, just like this, in all the humility, I said, hey, Sarge, that's not accurate. I'll be honest, I'm really in deep right now, and I'm nervous. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I said, I'm at 10,300 pounds, and I realized that if 300 pounds can go away, this is something I can at least wrap my mind around and try to afford. And I tell him all this, the stuff. I said, look, I told him the situation, how I got in the situation. I accept responsibility, but please, this is not fair. I'm essentially trying to strike a plea bargain with you. Can you plea this down for me? Can you take 300 pounds off? I'll still be paying thousands to you. And he goes, I understand. Let me talk to the officer. So I give the phone back, and the officer starts telling his supervisor, we're not doing this. I'm not going to reweigh this guy. My portable scales are covered in cow crap. I already spent all this time. He's at 10,300 pounds, and that's that. And he hangs up. And that's when it just all washed over me. I start to get just tears well up in my eyes, realizing that I'm going to pay $8,000 out of my somewhere to this officer, because he will not be kind enough and gracious enough and understanding enough to take 300 pounds. My total gross weight, you guys, was almost 108,000 pounds, and I'm asking that he erases 300. The math on that is 0.002%. That's what I'm asking for, a reduction of 0.002. And this guy tells me to shove it. This is why I cannot stand DOT officers. Because there are so many officers out there that are just like this guy. They get a little bit of authority and they go, you know what? No, this is the rules. It's written right here. This is what we're doing. They have no ability to have any vision, to see down the road, to factor in circumstances. Nothing. I'm just pure executioner. I'm not being a judge. I'm not listening to the facts. None of these things. I am 100% executioner. I will grant zero judgment other than pure death. That is what this officer's doing. There are so many like him out there. It's so frustrating as you try to make a living on the road. And I told him, I said, hey, this is going to kill me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I said, the economy's been garbage for the last 2 years. Trucking has been atrocious. I've just been watching everything I've worked for slowly go downhill. I understand I'm responsible for some of this, but you have to be able to see some reason here. This is not fair. I'm 300 pounds over. I'm asking for a 0.002% reduction. And he says, hey, I understand it's been hard. And I said, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking, you don't understand. You work for the state. You've been on a locked salary for 16 years. You've had state benefits for 16 years. You know nothing. You know zero about what I'm going through right now. None. So don't tell me you understand. Don't tell me you understand. Because you are exercising zero understanding in this moment. So as he continues to work on my papers, you guys, and this was just yesterday, I didn't even know. And this thought comes to me. And I go from having, tears in my eyes. I go from having tears in my eyes to rage and anger start to build up. And I'm going to recap this all in the end with some tips for you guys when you're on the road and you encounter situations like this. I went into pure fight mode. And what triggered that is, as I was pleading with my elbow on the windowsill of his pickup, he started yelling at me to get off my pickup. Quit asking me. My decision is final. Now get off of my pickup. He says it just like that. You've been leaning on my pickup this whole time. Get off my pickup. Just like that to me. Wow. Okay. So I step away because he ordered me to. And this is where the fight mode starts to come in. And a little sprinkling from heaven came into my mind. And I remember that many times over the years, you guys, when I come in through the port of entry at Tilford, South Dakota, I've had weight issues hauling cattle. It's common. If you haul cattle, you've had weight issues. Okay? At the port of entry, they'll pull you in, they'll weigh you, they'll pull you around back. You come in and they say, all right, Jackson, here's your problem. This axle is too heavy, this axle is too light. You don't have sliders and things that you can do like when you're hauling freight. They will give you a chance to rectify the situation by shuffling your load around, by manipulating your load. So you go out in the parking lot, you climb in your trailer, you might take a few cows out of the back and try to push them up into the front, a few calves rather. I wouldn't do this with cows. Calves, I'll climb in there and shuffle them around, and they'll let you reweigh. They will let you reweigh. One time. Once you've reweighed, that's that. Whatever it is, they give you a chance to try to make it better. That's that. Now, this is what we're dealing with. You either got to, buy your permits, or you're legal and you're free to go now, sir. Whatever it is, you get that. That's been for years. It's always been this way. They've always allowed this at the port of entry. Multi-million-dollar facility. Turned around to the officer through his window from my 3 feet away. And I said, I want a reweigh. And he looked at me like I slapped him in the face. He said, not a chance you're getting a reweigh. You're not getting out of this. I said, I want a reweigh. This ain't happening. First of all, my scales are covered in your cow manure. This, that, it's going to take too much time. I've already spent 2.5 hours with you. We're not doing a reweigh. I want a reweigh. I said, listen, you listen here now, okay? I've been listening to everything you've been throwing at me, and your absolute lack of any understanding, any compassion. Now it's your turn to listen. So when I go through the port of entry, this is what happens, and I explained exactly what I just told you guys. I said, they allow it. That's how the law is applied at the port of entry. No more official thing than that. I said, you're trying to tell me that it's not allowed. You're not doing it. He said, we're doing it. I said, because here's why. I have not received equal application of South Dakota trucking rules today. I go through Tilford a month ago, they allow reweighs. I go through you today and you say it's no longer allowed. We're not doing it. Why? Because now you're exercising discretion to say, I'm just not doing it. If you're not exercising discretion today, then I'm not exercising discretion today on the reweigh, and you absolutely are doing it. If you're not, we're going up the chain, and it's happening. We are reweighing this truck. He gets so mad, he opens his door, jumps out. Fine, we'll reweigh this. Go get in your stinking truck, back it up, back it over here. We're going to reweigh. That's what you want to do so bad. He goes, but listen, it's cold out today. Your cattle, I guarantee your cattle ain't even going to have shrank 300 pounds. He tells me this 3 times to reiterate. It's cold. Your cattle will not be any lighter. We're wasting time. Look at all these trucks driving by while you're wasting my time with a reweigh. So I back the truck over. We get the scale set up. It takes 20 minutes. And after every set of scales that I back on top of, I set my brake and I get out and I get my camera and I go video every single scale that I crossed. He's telling me, get back in your truck so we can get this done. Go move your truck so we can get this done. Oh, I'll move my truck after I get done videoing every single scale head on my trailer. Every time I got out, he told me to go get back in your truck, move your truck, let's go, let's go. We finally finished the reweigh. I give him some time. I walk back up to his door and he says, well, it's your lucky day. And I'm like, oh, bud, let's not talk about luck, because you had the opportunity to make it my lucky day. And by reducing my load 0.002%, and you said no. You said no 100 times no. It ain't my lucky day. There's nothing lucky about any of this. Well, you're at 8,700 pounds overweight now. You went from 10.3 to 8,700. Oh, I shrunk 1,600 pounds in the 2.5 hours that I sat here with you? Really? You just told me you'd bet money that my cattle have not shrunk today sitting here, and that I gotta take it. Oh, you're gonna get it. You're still overweight. You watch and see. 1,600 pounds, you guys. It's your lucky day, bud. No, it's not. It's not. My lucky day would have been you exercising some discretion and say, hey, I'll give you the 5%. It doesn't apply for you. It's your lucky day. I'll give you the 5% because you kind of got ripped off on this deal by this cattle buyer. I'll give you the 5%. Pay me $2,300. Go on your way. My new fine got adjusted to $3,407. I wrote a check on the spot and went on my way. You guys, here's the thing. Still a horrible experience, right? Horrible experience. Massive loss. Massive loss. Yes, I'm responsible. I understand that. Massive loss. The guy that we're doing the loads for has assured me that he'll make it right. I'll have to keep you posted on it. He says you're not gonna get stuck with all this. We'll make it right. We'll figure it out. Well, we'll see. But you guys, here's the thing. I can't tell you how many times truckers have told me, you go into the scales and something's wrong, you play nice, be so nice, because they can make your life so much worse. I'm here to tell you, don't be nice. You don't gotta be mean, but you don't need to be nice, okay? You know what nice got me for 2.5 hours? It got me nothing. It got me zero. It got me an $8,000 fine. That's what nice got me. Quit this, you guys. Quit this mentality that because you're in a scale and this DOT officer has the authority to do whatever he wants, that I got to sit here and take it. Get that out of your system. Because the second that I got it out of mine, started fighting for myself, using my mind, I got my fine reduced. But it wasn't because of luck. It wasn't because this was a nice guy. It wasn't because I was nice. It was because I had to use logic and really think and really get the wheels turning to understand some pathway to get out of this, to settle it and figure out some way, because this guy's not going to give it to me. And I'm here to tell you that most DOT officers are not going to use that nice discretion, to use well, you know what? You have been dealt some poor cards today, and you've been very cordial to me for the last hour and a half. Up to the point we had to start reweighing. I was so nice. I was so gracious. Got me nothing, you guys. Got me zero. So, check for scales. If you got to run overweight, shame on me. Should have checked closer. The guy had the nerve to tell me that. He said, why'd you come in here? Why wouldn't you have gone around? The DOT officer told me that. There's plenty of ways around this scale. Why would you come here? And here's what I'm thinking. Hey, bud, if you have the audacity to say something so unprofessional, on top of the unprofessional mother effers and GDs and all the language that you used while you were reweighing my truck, it's all on your body camera, why couldn't you say, you know what, you could have gone around, I'm going to give you a break. Because it's easy to go around the scale, but you came in here anyway. I am going to give you a break. Guy's a clown show. Guy's a clown show. Still debating. May even call the supervisor that I talked to and just say, look, here's my YouTube video. Why don't you go watch this video? This is a great review of your 16-year veteran, 54-year-old veteran Officer Schmidt up there in Selby. This is your guy. This is how he treated me. This is how it went. I am fully ready to take responsibility for being overweight. But I expect some respect and some fairness, none of which was given. If you expect by giving respect and fairness to these guys and these scales out on the road, that you'll encounter the oddball that'll be nice to you back and will appreciate your demeanor. But it's the minority. It is not the typical experience. Okay, you guys, that's it. That was long. That was 30 minutes long. I hope it was an interesting story to you. It's a disaster for me. We'll see if we can collect on this. If these guys will actually step up. Maybe this big outfit that gave me the load will say, hey, sorry that we sent you into the lines. And maybe the cattle buyer that knew what the cattle weighed and didn't tell me the truth of it, maybe he'll step up and say, yeah, I'll pitch in. Because I dang sure chipped in my entire day's living, the $850 that load was going to pay for being so dang heavy. I've paid the fine. So we'll see what we get, you guys. But it's serious out here on the road. It's a serious thing. And remember that your livelihood is being toyed with when these officers, these DOT safety officials, will not show respect or compassion or just common sense understanding. They are toying with you, your livelihood, and your family, and you can't allow that to happen. Because you go up the chain high enough, somebody up the chain will always realize that what you're saying is not unreasonable. Asking for that 300 pounds to go away is not unreasonable. It's plea bargain, you guys. The courts do it all the time. In fact, most cases are plea bargain. When in history is somebody, a criminal, given the full weight, full force, full blast of the law? Almost never. Almost never. So why should that happen to us when we're treated as criminals out here on the road? Keep that in mind, you guys. Be good.